I'm Angie Breton. I believe that Florida needs to raise the legal driving age from 16 to 18 because many 16-year-olds are not mature or responsible enough to handle driving alone. Their judgment has not yet been developed. They often drive recklessly or carelessly because they haven't developed the part of the brain that regulates common sense. The part of the brain that regulates impulse control is the last part of the brain to develop. Therefore, teens are prone to risk-taking, poor impulse control, and bad judgment. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, motor vehicle crashes are the leading cause of death among U.S. teens. The risk of motor vehicle crashes is higher among 16 to 18-year-olds than any other age group. The CDC reports that among teen drivers, those at especially high risk for motor vehicle crashes are males. In 2010, the motor vehicle death rate for male drivers and passengers ages 16 to 18 was almost 2 times that of their female counterparts. Teens driving with teen passengers. The presence of teen passengers increases the crash risk of unsupervised teen drivers. This risk increases with the number of teen passengers and also newly licensed teens. Crash risk is particularly high during the first month of licensure. My husband Troy and I owned a towing service for 15 years, and we saw many traffic fatalities involving young drivers. Troy worked a crash where a 16-year-old boy had just had his license for about a week. He was leaving home, driving in the soft sand and driving too fast. He lost control and rolled his vehicle completely over. He was inexperienced and should have been going slower. He was killed instantly when he was partially ejected from his car. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt. The CDC also states that compared with other age groups, teens have the lowest rate of seatbelt use and are more likely to drive while intoxicated. Again, bad judgment. The CDC states that in 2010, 22% of drivers ages 15 to 20 involved in motor vehicle crashes were drinking. On Father's Day several years ago, Troy worked a crash where a 14-year-old boy was left home alone. He was left home alone with alcohol and the keys to the car. He used very bad judgment, as many young teens do. He got drunk and decided to go for a joyride without wearing his seatbelt. He was driving too fast in the soft sand, and again he lost control. The vehicle flipped over and his head was pinned between the roof and the dashboard. The boy's grandpa had to come and help Troy clean the blood and the brain matter from inside the car because the mother insisted on seeing it. The California Department of Motor Vehicles says that the relationship between age and driving behavior has interested highway safety researchers and administrators for many years. It is generally acknowledged that the greatest risk of traffic crashes is among teenage drivers. They say young drivers have not yet developed the ability to assess dangerous situations and driving hazards. They also tend to overestimate their own ability. They feel they are invincible. The CDMV also states that the greatest risk of traffic crashes is among teenage drivers. In 2007, when my younger daughter was 16, she had a friend named Jackie. Jackie was riding in a car with another 16-year-old girl named Caitlin when Caitlin lost control of the vehicle. According to the Gainesville Sun, troopers stated that the teens overshot the edge of the road, lost control, started fishtailing, and hit a tree. Both girls died from their injuries. They were wearing seatbelts and their airbags deployed. It was just a case of an inexperienced driver not being able to handle the situation. And I have a picture of that crash. I can show you. It's a partial picture of the vehicle that was involved. In Long Island, a 16-year-old boy was killed and 3 of his friends were injured in a car crash in June of this year when the driver lost control of the vehicle, overturned, and hit a tree. The driver was 17. The 16-year-old passenger who was killed was ejected from the vehicle. The driver, a 17-year-old passenger, and a 15-year-old passenger were injured. That's a picture of the crash. According to MLive.com, in Michigan, a 16-year-old boy was pronounced dead at the scene after being ejected from the vehicle he was a passenger in. The driver was 16. There was one other 16-year-old, as well as an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old in the vehicle. All sustained serious injuries. Police said the vehicle became airborne after it failed to stop at a stop sign at an elevated railroad crossing. The driver was unable to maintain control of the vehicle when it landed, MLive reported. I would assume they were probably going too fast. According to the Huffington Post, on May 20th, 2013, this pretty girl right here, Savannah Nash, obtained permission to drive to the store by herself from her parents. It was her first solo drive. It was also her last. Police found an unsent text message on her phone and believe that she was probably texting and driving. She turned into the path of a semi-truck and she died at the scene. According to DoSomething.org, 33% of deaths among 13 to 18-year-olds in 2010 occurred in motor vehicle crashes. That's 1/3. They said 56% of teens admitted to talking on the phone while driving. They also said statistics show 16 and 17-year-old drivers' death rates increase with each additional passenger in the vehicle. And only 44% of teens said they would definitely speak up if someone were driving in a way that scared them. They also stated teen drivers who have involved parents are twice as likely to wear seatbelts. That's something my husband and I have always encouraged, and all of our children now drive with their seatbelts on. More than 40% of teen auto deaths occur at night, and talking on the cell phone can also double the likelihood of an accident, as well as slow a young driver's reaction time to that of a 70-year-old. They state, in the first year of driving, 1 in 5 16-year-olds has an accident. It's these reasons I believe 16 and 17-year-olds should not be allowed to drive without a responsible adult. They haven't developed the thinking skills needed to make informed choices, and they haven't developed enough common sense. They're also inexperienced and too easily distracted. My husband picked up several cars where 16-year-old drivers were killed. Most were driving by themselves, but some were with friends. This made us a little paranoid about our own children getting their driver's license, and we didn't allow them to get it at 16. If it was up to me, they wouldn't get it until they were at least 18, and then that depends on the maturity of the child. My youngest son is probably the most responsible of the four for his age, and I'll let him get his driver's license when he's 17. There are a few other kids who are responsible enough as well. However, I believe that most kids should wait until they're 18. My husband and I have our 16-year-old, and we've raised 3 others. This is our 4th teenager, and I know that in my personal experience, 3 out of 4 teenagers are not responsible or mature enough to drive alone at 16. I believe they should wait till they're 18. Thank you.